Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'd like to go ahead and call our Education Subcommittee to order and turn it over right away to Wendy King, our Legislative Analyst for this subcommittee from Senate Finance and Appropriations, who's going to go over some member amendments with us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as you mentioned, we're going to spend a little bit of time today to walk through member amendments. This was something we had hoped to do last week, but unfortunately we needed to cancel a few meetings to get through the bills before crossover. So we're glad we have a chance to walk through some of these. In your packet is a listing that includes all of the amendments for education. There are several pages, so what I think I'll do in the essence of time is try to summarize a few things related to each of the sections and then take questions as you may have them and be able to answer those for you. In the first line, we do have some language changes for the Joint Subcommittee on Elementary and Secondary Education Funding. There's some proposals to have a work group listed as an additional component for that. And the next area, the next block is the Department of Education. You'll see that there were several bills that are listed here that were placeholders if they passed. Many of the bills that did pass, and I'll highlight those in a minute, we had some changes to those bills as they passed that reduced the fiscal impact, and so therefore we have some flexibility to be able to provide funds as appropriated as we start to work on the budget. For example, there was a hazing prevention, and I think at the end the fiscal impact for that said that there was no fiscal impact. We do want to note that the early childhood care and fund, we did pass that, but again, we have did some changes with that so that we had some flexibility as we move through the budget. Some other bills that we did pass is on line 14, the Office of Community Schools. And again, we made some changes to provide flexibility to provide funds as appropriated. Another one that passed is on line 15, the special education with Senator Filvola, where we made some adjustments to start working on special education, but be able to provide funds as they're available. And line 16 was the special needs staffing requirements, and we rolled that into a larger bill that Senator Lucas had regarded to all of the JLARC recommendations, and we'll be doing some funds as appropriated for that as well. Those are the amendments in the Department of Education, just to highlight a few. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and if not, I'll move over to the supplements. So the next lines that you'll see here are listed in supplementals. These are on lines 20 through 77. These are programs that are may have some initial funding here, or they're asking to be provided additional funding. They can cross a lot of different areas, but I think in the essence of time, I'd be happy to answer any questions if there's specific ones that stand out in terms of the type of program that's being asked about or the funding amount that they are requesting. Two areas that I do want to note, you'll see on line 62 and 63, because there are bills that are mentioned here. Again, these were bills that passed. They were some changes and substitutes to those, and later did not have a fiscal impact. So there is opportunity if the committee wanted to look at some funding in the budget, but again, we're more focused on the reduction of the fiscal impact, so those would not be something we need to do. One that is listed here is on line 74. This is Senator Rouse with the Cardiac Emergency Response Program that was passed by the committee.
Wendy, for the Rouse bill, would the fiscal impact remain the same there?
Madam Chair, yes, I believe so. He had proposed that based on an estimate of 25, I have to go back and look at the specific wording, but he had estimated this would be funding it at a partial amount and wanted to make grants available to schools. We expect that some may have this already in place, so it was hard to tell how much they may need. So there could be some funds as appropriated in this one as well.
Thank you.
Wendy, just a quick question. Sorry, Madam Chair. Quick question about line 29 with Engage Virginia program. That program was discontinued in December. However, it was funded, I believe, in our previous budget through the rest of this year. Do we know where that money has been reallocated?
Madam Chair, Senator Hashmi, I have to go back and check. I think this was through some federal dollars, and the timing of it, because it got started late, was that it was ending mid-year. I believe that they used all of the money that was allocated for it, but I would like to be able to confirm that. So I'm not sure it's been that they used the remaining amounts for something else. It was that was the contract term, but because it had a late start, it was also ending partially through.
Thank you.
Moving over to direct aid, this is where some of our largest asks were. This starts on line 78 and runs through lines 110. There were a lot of larger asks that were focused on the implementation of the JLARC recommendations. As we passed several of the bills, we put them into an omnibus and merged those bills into one and started to look at some priority areas. So while there are several here that are listed, and some also did overlap in terms of they were both looking to accomplish either all of the JLARC near-term recommendations or some of the JLARC recommendations. Many of those have been rolled up, and we are going to be looking at how we can start moving some of these forward through the budget, as well as in the SB 105 that passed. We are looking to start some data collection to improve the English language learners and looking into some special ed staffing requirements. So we're trying to start to move some of those things before the joint subcommittee gets together to be able to start looking at this as well. So again, there's a lot of large dollar items in here, but again, many of them we were looking to address through the budget if there's funds available, but also continue with the joint subcommittee and recognize that we want to start working on these JLARC recommendations after session. But again, I'll be happy to answer any questions on specific line items that are provided through the direct aid. Moving on to this next one, it's on lines 111 and 112, and these are duplicate ones in terms of funding for the expansion of the 21st century community learning centers, and that would close out most of the fund requests in the public education and other education area. With that, I'll also start moving on from line 113. For the rest of the amendments that are listed, those are focused on higher education institutions. The first block you'll see here, which is lines 113 through 134, relates to SHEV, the State Council of Higher Education for Virginia. There are various program requests for both financial aid, the tuition assistance grant that is operated by SHEV but goes to the public nonprofit institutions in Virginia, as well as a handful of other things that are listed on the following page in lines 120 or 119 through 134. We'll note there are two bills that are listed on line 125 related to council membership, as well as 127. The council membership did not have a fiscal impact in the end. It did pass. That's a change to have a private nonprofit former president on their board. And then the Hunger Free Campus was passed by, or continued, excuse me. Moving on to lines 135 through the following pages. These, through lines 188, these are institution requests that are provided, and they range from various specific programs. Sometimes they'll be asking for operation and maintenance of new facilities that are coming online, as well as just some various initiatives. There are some that are more research related, as well for the institutions that we have that have research programs. And then starting on line 190, this is where we start to move into some of our other education, as well as our higher education learning centers. The first one is the Gunston Hall. This next one on line 191 and 192 is the Library of Virginia. And then we have some additional ones for our higher education centers, moving from 194 on through the following pages related to 203. And finally, there are two amendments that are related to higher education that are in central appropriations for the Virginia Military Survivor and Dependent Education Program, as well as some tuition flexibility on line 205. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions regarding different amendments that you may see here.
Are there any questions regarding any of these amendments at this point? Doesn't look like it, Wendy.
All right,
Looks like we
thank
have a lot of
you.
work to do.
We have a lot of work to do, but we're happy to answer any additional questions as they may arise. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, committee members, we've heard the report on member amendments, and we're going to have to begin to walk ourselves through these and make some determination of how we're going to address them. So let's get to work at some point between now and tomorrow. All right. Okay, thank you all, and thank you all for coming this afternoon.
The Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.